Thank you. I'd like to thank the members of the Lexington Symphony for providing us with that opening fanfare. Now, we'll proceed now with the Lexington Minuteman providing us with a march and placing of the colors. Thank you. Now I'd like to recognize Reverend Helen Cohen for the opening convocation.
Please be seated, those of you who have chairs here. O rising spirit of life, source of all life and all people, of the earth and the changing seasons, we gather in the beauty and rich harvest of autumn to celebrate this Lexington Community Center, the harvest of countless hands and hearts and minds working over many years. The long dream of a vibrantly connected town, the ever-growing commitment to meet the needs of all our residents have been fulfilled. We give thanks especially to the volunteer committee who listened to our wishes and made order out of them, defining and shaping the dream. We give thanks to all our professional and volunteer leaders who have supported and implemented the planning, to the masons who created this beautiful building, and to those who have reconstructed and renewed these spaces with their hard work. We give thanks to this community of people for their generosity of resources and spirit. And we are grateful for all those who work here now, embodying our hopes, making them come true in the services they provide. Gathered here, young and old, of all races and origins and religions, construction workers and farmers and teachers, merchants and artists and athletes, lifelong residents and those who have come here this month, we are blessed together. In gratitude, may we each ask ourselves, what do I see in the future for this shared place? How can I build on what has been created? How can I contribute my vision, my creativity, my work? That together we continue to grow, to reach out, to bring in, and to deepen our sense of connectedness, of purpose, of delight. So may we be faithful stewards of the gift we have been given. Amen.
Thank you, Reverend Cohen. And welcome all. I'm Joe Pato, Chair of the Board of Selectmen, and I thank you all for coming out this morning on a wonderful day. I didn't do anything special to arrange for the wind and the nippy conditions, but as I mentioned to the speakers, the cold is to make sure we all remember that we should keep it brief and keep it warm. So anyway, thank you for coming to this wonderful grand opening celebration. We were here just over a year ago in September on an equally beautiful day for groundbreaking. And just down Mass Ave, a little over 6 miles to the southeast, others are gathered to enjoy the 50th head of the Charles Regatta. Like that celebration of teamwork, determination, and grit, We are here to celebrate a tremendous effort by a large and committed collection of volunteers over a very long period of time. Not quite 50 years, but close, and I think Norman will be providing us a little bit of the history as well as Michelle Scola. I want to recognize some of the key officials that have provided for us to move forward. There are a number of former selectmen here today: Deborah Mauger, Hank Mans, George Burnell. Wave your hands so people can come and thank you in a little while. And the current board, which helped move along the process of acquiring this property and renovating it: Mr. Kelly, Norman Cohen, Susan Barry, and Michelle Sicolo. And we'll be hearing from Norman and Michelle in a few minutes on various aspects of the project. And I'd also like to thank Mr. Carl Valenti, our town manager, for having made this process work and have staff do an outstanding job. For me, I want to marvel at the evolution of this facility. I've been holding office hours here once a month since we had our soft opening in July, and things get better every month. I've watched avid pool and table tennis players gather for spirited games, seen the facility host Hanscom area communities to explore cooperation on the facilities at the Hanscom base, and seen OWL looking at continuing lifelong learning events draw huge crowds each month more. Someday I'll start advertising the fact that I'm holding office hours and people will show up to speak to me. But I'd rather have residents come and enjoy this, and in the future, come and talk to me. I'd like to have my sheets in order, but I'd like to have Norman Cohen come up and give us a little bit of the history of how we got to this property. Norman?
Thank you and welcome. Remember when the senior center was initially located in its, quote, temporary, unquote, location at the Muzzy condominiums? That was July 1985. It was still there in June 2000 when the selectmen appointed a committee to find a site for a new senior center. The first decade of the 21st century was filled with studies and reports related to a new senior center, but unfortunately, no place to put it. Little did we know then that the answer was down the street and around the corner, where a place was waiting for every Lexington resident, no matter what the age. My association with this beautiful building began back in June of 2008, when I was invited to become a member of the board of directors of the Scottish Rite Masonic Museum and Library. Our meetings were held here, the headquarters of the Northern Masonic jurisdiction of the United States. I remember well my first meeting in the beautiful boardroom on the top floor. With the exception of 3 members of the board at that time, all of the members were 33rd degree Masons, one of whom, from Delaware, turned out to be my own Bowdoin College classmate. The president of the board, from Indiana, was John McNaughton, the Grand Commander of the Northern Masonic jurisdiction, and John is here today. Fast forward to January 10th, 2012. A decision was made to move the Masonic headquarters down the hill to the museum and library and to sell this building. At the end of the meeting, I spoke to Commander McNaughton and said that while I had not been authorized by anybody, I thought that the town of Lexington might be interested in buying this property. Commander McNaughton's response was that he would be leaving for a trip to Europe the next day, but that he would call me when he returned in 6 weeks. True to his word, he called and a meeting was set up to meet with me and town manager Carl Valenti. As word got out, a number of potential buyers appeared on the scene. While this undoubtedly added a few $1 million more to the price at a special town meeting on March 18, 2013, the town voted to purchase the property using mostly community preservation funds. I want to thank Commander John McNaughton for all of his support. Thank you so much. Our new community center is off to a terrific start. The soft opening phase is now over. Lexington can be very proud of this community center and the outstanding work done by the staff and citizen volunteers who made this all possible and about whom you will hear shortly. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Norman. At this point, I'd like to introduce Reggie Gibson, who is the town poet laureate, I would say, who I've enjoyed poetry readings at a variety of these sessions. Reggie.
Good, brisk morning to all. The Lexington Community Center stands here today because of engineering and architecture, because of blueprint and schematic, because of meticulous measurement, exact angle, and deliberate line. It stands here because of a marriage of mind and muscle to hammer pound and nail drive, because of cement and plaster, primer and paint, and miles of electric wiring running beneath facades of drywall and brick. This is why it stands, but not why it exists. This community center exists because of grit and commitment and the enduring of endless frustration. It exists because of a vision and vigilance and an undying sense of citizenship. It exists because of us, Lexington, to serve as a place in which we can explore our communal human space. It exists to enrich the lives of each of our town citizens, to focus our civic energy, to magnify civic pride. It exists to engage, to better the social wellness of an historic, evolving community, and to fan the intellectual, physical, social, and political fire required to forge its identity. It exists so that we will continue to understand ourselves and each other as more than individual declarations of personal independence, but as a people born of argument and question, quiet reflection and hard-won and often temporary consensus and covenant, much like our democracy. And like our democracy, this center is more than the sum of its parts. It is the sum of its participants, and is only as functional as those of us willing to enter and engage, as those of us willing to make it alive with our breathing and vibrant with our voices. And this center needs all of our voices. The voice of the senior citizen and the unseasoned teen, the voice of the unripened and the mature, the voice of the native speaker and that of those just learning our language, the voice of the eloquent, the silent, and the silenced. And like democracy, this center is still under construction. Some of its rooms yet to be finished, much of the dust of building yet to be cleared. And even when this center is finished, it will need to be maintained. A new nail hammered, a new wall painted, a new tree planted, a new room added. And we will build that room. And all will be welcome then, as all are welcome now. New immigrant, native citizen, welcome. First generation born, welcome. Refugee or descendant of the enslaved, welcome. And yes, even you who have ancestors who came on the Mayflower, welcome. You are all welcome here, and this center needs you all. So enter and talk, argue and exercise, analyze and organize, participate and initiate. Initiate conversation over coffee. Initiate discussions about books and topics that have given your mind wings. Initiate intergenerational exchanges of both natures, both philosophical and frivolous. And then listen. Listen to the hum of us in community with one another. Listen to the laughter of us at play. Listen to all our voices brought together under the roof of this house that, like our democracy, when we are at our best, will always strive to make room for us all.
Thank you, Reggie. And clearly he has delivered the eloquent, and I've provided the compliment. I'd like to ask Michelle Skoll to come up and recognize all of the, or I hope all, of the vast number of volunteers that have made this possible. Michelle.
Thank you, Joe. And thank you, Reggie. That is a hard act to follow. And I am going to do my best this morning to recognize everyone. But I have to say first, it's impossible to recognize everyone who's done so much to make this center happen. Still, I'm going to try. So on behalf of my fellow Board of Selectmen members, I'm pleased to make some remarks as chair of the Community Center Advisory Committee. I have to thank my board, Joe, Norm, Peter, Susie. They have been unequivocal in their support of this new facility, and each have provided key assistance along the way. For the seniors in Lexington, finding a permanent home for senior programming has been a 30-year odyssey, or some would say nearly 40 years if you consider that the first COA office was opened in the town in 1976. Members of Lexington's Council on Aging and Friends of the Senior Center throughout the decades spoke about senior needs and advocated for better space tirelessly. There was great support from folks like Ben Cohen, Dan Fenn, Jane Trudeau, the Hoes, the Adlers, the Gabotas, and so many more. I couldn't possibly name them all. But I have to give some credit also to the community when it began to recognize that we could be more and be stronger if we created an intergenerational place for all Lexingtonians. This vision really began to take hold around 2010, shortly before the Board of Selectmen seated the Community Center Task Force. That group was chaired by one of our tireless leaders, Laura Hussong, to whom we owe a great debt. Guided by her diligent, comprehensive efforts, the members of this task force, a great group of people, identified, defined, and refined the need for Lexington to have a physical space which would be an extension of all of our living rooms, a place that would serve as a vibrant community hub. This task force developed the vision, the goals, and objectives for the new center, and really did yeoman's work. And then the miracle happened. This remarkable building site became available. Through decisive, swift actions of our town staff and with the strategic support of the then Board of Selectmen, we were able to obtain this facility. But I must say, if it weren't for all the groundwork that came before it, I'm certain the town would not have been ready and willing to step forward and purchase this site. So my hat is off to the countless volunteers, committees, and advocates who paved the way. Those hundreds of community meetings really paid off. As the chair of the Community Center Advisory Committee, I was the newcomer in the process. I jumped in only at the end to help guide the project over the last 2.5 years. Really, after all, the heavy lifting was already done by others. It's impossible for me to name all the folks, but I would like to take a moment to acknowledge my committee members who made it easy for me to chair this last leg of the project. Mary Ellen Alessandro, Elizabeth Borghesani, Harry Forstick, John Himmel, Laura Hussong, Forrest Koplow, and Leslie Zales. It was such a privilege for me to be able to serve with so many talented and committed volunteers. These folks really put countless hours into making the project happen. We also had several faithful liaisons from other committees and interested members of the public who seemed to never miss a meeting. Nancy Adler, David Cantor, Glenn Parker, Beth Masterman, and Sarah Arnold, who took our minutes, and all the members of the school committee, Jesse Steigerwald, Sandra Alessandrini, Judy Crocker, Margaret Copey, and Bill Hurley, who helped by collaborating, facilitating communications, and also attending our meetings on occasion. There's so many people to thank. Bringing on this facility has truly been a community-wide effort. However, I would be remiss if I didn't mention a few more folks. We had fantastic architects from Steffi and Bradley, especially Joe Sirkovitz and Teresa Wilson, a dynamic duo who happen also to be Lexingtonians. I don't know where they are, but if you could raise your hand. They are here. Our contractor, Nauset Construction Corporation, did a great job with the physical construction work. And then there are the people who lived, breathed, dreamed, and sweated about this building 24/7 for more than 3 years. We are so blessed to have such a talented staff who care so deeply about our community and are so committed to the work they do to help strengthen Lexington. Lexington is renowned for its professional staff, and without them, this project truly would never have happened. It was a major undertaking to merge several programmatic departments into one and to physically move so many employees. These folks did it with good humor and good grace. Charlotte Rogers, our Human Services Director, who listened so carefully to the needs and concerns expressed by our seniors. Sheila Butts, who started as Assistant Recreation Director and is now our new Community Center Director. She is performing a role our committee insisted was necessary to the smooth functioning of the facility. Karen Simmons, who stepped up from Recreation Director to the overall Directory of Community Programs for the town. This is a huge undertaking that will really put Lexington strategically ahead of its peer communities, enabling us to efficiently deliver comprehensive community programs. Corin Stembridge, who shared her wisdom and guidance with us throughout the process. I know she's here, but Dorinda Goodman and David Bordenko in IT, who were here countless evenings until the late hours. Our building people, who somehow managed never to let us down, even though we keep insisting on building, buying, and renovating even more buildings. Pat Goddard, the Director of Facilities. I've never met a person who can juggle so many complex details, tight deadlines, and interact with residents with great tact and diplomacy. He has a superlative staff as well, and all of them are to be commended for their diligence in supporting us in this project. In particular, Mark Barrett, the project manager. Mark kept things together and led the project when Pat could no longer clone himself, and Don Johnson backed him up as assistant project manager. The work of the committee took more than 100 meetings and working groups. We had public listening sessions and 6-hour marathon working sessions. One of the quiet people behind the scenes helping with scheduling and coordination is Lynn Pease, our executive clerk, who kept the wheels in motion. And the building custodians who worked so hard to keep all of our buildings functioning smoothly, and in particular who worked extra hard to have this building up and ready for today. Scott Donahue, Ted Noki, and Kevin Ty. And at the head of all this, managing us as volunteers, spearheading the strategic direction, and dealing with all the headaches that bubbled up, there is, of course, Linda Vine, our assistant town manager. Linda played a key role in overseeing all the personnel changes. And there's Carl Valenti, the best town manager in the state. Carl really just does all it requires to make it happen. During the project, we had cost overruns, we had major design changes that caused us to rethink our strategy, from a get-in-quick approach of low-cost renovations to a major structural overhaul that included all new HVAC systems needed for the long haul. We went back to town meeting, not once but twice, to ask for more funds. But the community didn't balk or let us down. When you have that level of overwhelming support from the town meeting, from the residents, from the voters, you know you have stumbled onto something truly special. In addition to town meeting, the Community Preservation Committee provided the lion's share of the funding required for this project, and we extend our appreciation to its members. To help us put together the finishing touches on the building, we had several major donations and gifts that shouldn't go unrecognized. Major gifts for furnishing the interior and equipment came from the Dana Home Foundation and the Friends of the Council on Aging. The Sokola Family Foundation and the Rotary Club, which fitted out the billiards rooms. We thank all these groups. When we embarked upon this odyssey, we agreed on certain guiding principles: to provide diverse programming, encourage the vitality, energy, and creativity of Lexington residents, to support the unique needs of seniors and teens, to serve as a town-wide hub, and most importantly, to build community. And we affirmed our mission to enhance the quality of life for all Lexington residents by creating a warm, welcoming, and inclusive environment. With that mission in mind, it is my honor to welcome you all into Lexington's living room, to our new community home here at the Lexington Community Center. Now we're going to have the ribbon cutting, and I'd like to invite the committee members, the Community Center Advisory Committee members, key staff, and the Board of Selectmen to come up and help with the ribbon cutting. After the ceremony, we invite you all in to enjoy some refreshments and to take a tour of the building and to see some of the programming that's going on throughout the morning. Our decorations and refreshments were provided by Wilson's Farm. I want to thank them too.
So thank you all, and welcome to come inside, warm up, get some refreshments, including hot tea or coffee, I think.
Well, community centers give people places to come and learn new things and to come together as a community. And without a physical space, it's a little bit harder to hold events and exchange ideas and share thoughts and participate in new programming to sort of broaden your horizons. So the physical space itself is a real important piece of bringing people together in the community. Most exciting day imaginable. The joy among the people here and the enthusiasm, it's better than our wildest dreams. We're really impressed with the turnout, and the feedback we're getting from residents is just heartwarming. I'm really thrilled to be able to be here and watch this unfold, and I have to give a lot of credit to the staff who really made it happen and brought everything together at the last minute to make sure that we could hold this great event.